The Saga of Tanya the Evil has to be the most underrated and also underappreciated, thought-provoking anime, let alone isekai, that has actually come out in such a long time. Actually, when I think about it, it might literally be on its own. Like, it's just this anime in terms of what it does. The amount of people that tend to mistakenly overlook this anime as just a simple war anime are making the biggest mistake of their lives in terms of anime. I'm not trying to get that deep, like, oh my gosh, you got lives going on.
Because I'm still waiting for you to click that like button and to subscribe and the post notification button.
When it comes to this anime, it does two things that separate it and just leave it on a lane of its own in terms of isekai that just makes you think, how is this anime not way more acknowledged for what it's doing for the isekai genre, let alone the anime genre? Because the first thing that this anime tends to catch people with is the shock factor. You've got basically a anime in which a grown-ass dude is cosplaying as a kid. It's kind of a little creepy, but that's the whole point. Essentially, this is an individual who is really about surviving, but also he's just very maniacal, very sort of dark, set in his ways, but he happens to be reincarnated in a little girl. And you would think to yourself that, okay, that's just like life just getting you back. You know, you felt like you were the man, now you're gonna be a little girl. And you're gonna be in a situation where like war is breaking out, you're really gonna feel powerless. Instead, this dude literally just takes that body and becomes a monster, basically a demon in the war, to the point that she's a leader, she's a prominent figure in the outcome of what's gonna happen because she's just that good. Generally, the shock factor is something that goes against what isekai generally do. Now, if you think about what happens within isekai, and to keep it a buck, it says the Saga of Tanya the Evil, we're following something that is a little bit different from what usual isekai do. This is a story about someone who's evil, but not those like cringy I'm a villainess or like villain, you know, those isekai, they're trash. This is basically the peak. This is the creme de la creme. Because as we know, we've kind of just grown to just assume that isekai are basically these, I tend to call them catfish anime, where basically it's about my real life sucked and now I'm back and now I'm better looking and I'm powerful and things are going to work out sometimes. But generally speaking, I'm something that I wanted to be or whatever, you know, catfish. You basically just wanted a life that was better than your real life. You know what it is. This is not the point of this anime. The point of this anime is to show you what can possibly happen when a dude who has a lot of IQ is able to make the most of his situation. In fact, the entire anime goes over him just basically trying to get the best out of every single situation. And as such, it results in him basically being evil because he realizes that in this situation, if he does certain things, this is going to help him survive, but also be in a really good position where his life is just like cushion soft. He knows what he needs to do. The part that gets a little murky is the use of war. People tend to do certain things that kind of go against their normal morals or what they think of because they say like it's war, you know, anything goes in war. And as such, the approach of an isekai is twisted. We're following an evil dude who's trying to survive, but also he was given basically a not so good hand because in other isekai, you know, they get like the powers, they're a chosen one or whatever. This is basically almost just like supposed to just be an unalive sentence because he's just a little girl. He should be powerless. But for some reason, things just worked out. And as such, you're experiencing another light of isekai in which for once an individual gets put in an unfortunate position and makes the most out of it, but they're evil compared to the other usual things that we always associate isekai with. And as such, it's already separated itself from your basic isekai with that general premise. And honestly speaking, I think it's one of the better examples of a villain story. But the part that really separates this anime from other anime, but also isekai, is the use of war and belief. Now, I'm not going to get too political, but generally speaking, people who go into war, there's a lot of people who practice belief or have faith within certain things. Most of the time, I'm assuming that their faith is one that doesn't necessarily agree with the things that happen in war, you know, like unaliving people and stuff like that. So generally speaking, people go into war with this mindset that what they're doing, even though it goes against their very faith, is for the betterment of humanity or their people or whatever is a valid reason that they believe I will sin or I will do something wrong for the betterment of others. Basically almost like a sacrifice. I'm not going to take jabs at people, but you can see how it's very easy for someone to end up feeling like they're a hero. Like, I'm going to make the sacrifices so that the world can get this. But generally speaking, most people who go into it believe that their faith and their belief will protect them, but also help them to win. And as such, you would like to think that you are rewarded for your faith, you are blessed. That is how you are able to survive, and that is how you're able to return home, but also you're able to make the change that you wanted initially if you're part of the group that wins. The problem with this anime is that it breaks the very foundation of that and just kicks it to the side, because you have an individual like Tanya who doesn't really believe in faith like that, but is utilizing every single blessing that she can get from it. In a sense, she is so unworthy of what she's getting, but she's getting it. And as an individual who is aware of what is happening when you're watching this anime, you start thinking differently about belief, but also what happened to those people who survived. Because one of the interesting things you can think of when you can think of war is that all of the great people that we know who are historic and have the names, they're survivors, but also you can think to themselves they were blessed to survive and their story be told. But the question really is, who are these people? Did they believe as much as you think they did to justify them being blessed in such a fashion? Are they such good people? What goes into the mindset of deciding that this person will be able to survive more than other people who happen to be more in terms of faith? Good people, practice good habits, that person survived. And that really starts to get you thinking the entire time of the purpose and the utility of faith in such a place. But when you think about it, it shouldn't even be applied in such a place, because war is not a place of faith. It shouldn't be a place where you should be applying your faith, where it's like, please bless me to unalive people and that I can accomplish goals that I think are good. That's not really the point. But generally within humanity, this has been something that's always been practiced, with the belief that you will be blessed in some sort of way because the gods or whoever you praise or believe in is able to see your heart or able to see your vision. In a sense, it's the justification of you doing something wrong or that goes against your faith. But in this anime, it's right there in front of you to see that this person utilizes faith to literally just benefit themselves, not humanity, not a greater cause, not sacrifice themselves. None of those things you would justify would be a good reason for them to be favored by a god or a faith. In fact, this is discussed many times within season 1, but also that presence of a being who follows him, kind of almost making him want to believe, but maybe not. It's there for a purpose. And as such, as an anime fan, this is an anime that really gets you thinking about faith in an environment where you would think faith should never be applied there, but it is. And as such, it results in you constantly thinking about the utility of faith. What goes into being blessed? What goes into surviving? What goes into so many things that you might think of in your daily life where you believe you were blessed? Did you get blessed because you thought you were a good person? You did good? What is the reason? But also, as we've seen, bad people also seem to get good things as well. And as such, it gets you really thinking about the purpose of your faith, and also, should you follow it? Should you believe in it? What is going on if individuals like Tanya can fully benefit from that? Meantime, you might practice it more and still get less. And it's so much more thought-provoking because that is the purpose of this anime. And oftentimes I feel like people don't justify its intelligence or its ability to really get you thinking, besides the initial shock factor of a mature dude being in like a little girl's body and she's really good at fighting. There's so much more to it. Actually, that part is there for a reason too. But generally, there's so much more to it. I just find it so fascinating that such a beautiful gem of a thought-provoking anime, let alone isekai, is right there in front of us. It took a while for it to come back for season 2, but still, it's right there in front of us, and it still might not get the recognition that it deserves because people might tend to overlook it because it's an isekai, or maybe not take it seriously, or maybe they find war boring or faith a little mundane. I can get it, but still, what we're seeing in front of us is a gem of thought-provoking elements that you can apply in so many things. And given humanity's connection with war, you have to almost think that you should watch this anime to get a better thought process of what you've heard about or what you're witnessing or what might happen. And I think that it would allow you to think a bit more about that whole thing that people sometimes justify so much of what they do. I'm not a fan of war, but generally speaking, you have to think about it because we all know of certain wars, whether it's connected to our culture, our beliefs, or history, certain things we learn about, we've heard about it, but sometimes do we really think about it? And I think that this anime is there for that. And I think that that's so amazing to me. And I hope that more people think about it too, because it's cool.